Rocket.
Might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. Hot air balloon, body go to space. In the air, like I don't care, baby, light the way. Cause I'm happy, clap along if you feel like moving without a roof. Cause I'm happy, clap along if you feel like
Happiness is your truth.
because I'm happy if you know what happiness is. You're my baby. Clap along if you feel like that's what you got.
Hey! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another. This is Dara. Thank you, Dara. Hey, there's my face back. Starts Dara to come in and sing us a little song called Happy for our chapter. What chapter are we on? I remember what chapter we're on now. Chapter 6, Force. Reading of. Let's just lose this. Reading of Charles Eisenstein. Oh, look at that. I can put that straight through my beard. How about that? Straight through the face. Could you imagine doing that in real life? Nobody can. What's happened here? Something happened. Excuse me. Bear with me. Let's lose that. There we go. Don't need to know that. It's Simon on the sofa bed. Listen, for everybody out here who's been following me reading these books, not books, this book. I'm doing 2 chapters today because I feel I was a little behind on reading for you all. And clearly I'm not on the bed, as you can see, although you could sleep on this sofa bed. The reason being is where I'm currently staying, the internet doesn't work where my bed is. I know. So ultimately I'm marketing wrongly. It's not so transparent to me. That's why I'm telling you all the truth now, you see. So we're going to just come over here and go like that. I don't think we're going to lose that old beard there because I need a shave. Take that old beard off. And I reckon it's time we lost the glasses. And I went diving. There you go. A little bit of diving. Or maybe I'm a pirate like everybody knows. Pirate of consciousness. Out there. Looking for love. Looking for the new story. The story in between stories. Ah. That be me. Out there. Looking for what there is to be seen in the open seas where nobody is, on the beaches, hoping for mere something. One more randomizer before we begin. Hey! All of a sudden I become a cat. Beautiful. Hey, one more randomize. Gotta love these little things. Crazy, isn't it? Distracting us from the big mission. Hey! Okay, Simon, control yourself. Let go of these craziness. People have got things to do. There's a revolution going on. But if you can't have fun while there's a revolution going on, what can you do, eh? Ha! There's a revolution taking place. Didn't give me the background for some reason. Oh! Back to the pirate. Hey! Pirate with sunglasses. Not so cool. So everybody, I'm a pirate, as you know. It's not really the beard though, is it, for it? Let's go again. It's going to be this beard. My gym lads, thank you all for watching the first 5 chapters of this book that I here show you. And one thing I want to tell you today is we're going to read another chapter. Come on, stop it. Hey, everybody. Sorry, crazy. But you got a song, a little bit of a music. And now we're going to just take these effects off because I can get completely carried away with those Google effects. Today we are reading chapter 6 of Charles Eisenstein's book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. I'm just going to dive in with this today because I just done that crazy intro. But wherever you are, thank you for tuning in. Take a few breaths, relax, listen to this wonderful next chapter. I haven't read this for a while, so this chapter. So let's see what happens. This is the first chapter you're reading. Then, you know, go back to the beginning, but you can read these chapters as you wish. Okay, force. The state of interbeing is a vulnerable state. It is the vulnerability of the naive altruist, of the trusting lover, of the unguarded sharer. To enter it, one must leave behind the seeming shelter of a control-based life, protected by the walls of cynicism, judgment, and blame. What if I give and do not receive, is the question. What if I choose to believe in a greater purpose and am deluded? What if the universe is an impersonal melee of forces after all? What if I open up and the world violates me? These fears ensure that ordinarily no one enters the new story until the old one falls apart, like sheep. It is not something we attain, it is something we are born into. Do you like my dramatic way of looking at the screen and sharing with you? I'm such an actor at times. Reminds me of being on stage. The same interbeingness that makes us so immensely vulnerable also makes us immensely powerful. Remember this. Indeed, the vulnerability and the power go hand in hand, because only by relaxing the guard of the separate self can we tap into power beyond its ken. Only then can we accomplish things that are, to the separate self, impossible. Put another way, we become capable of things that we don't know how to make happen. Making captions. To make something happen is to use some kind of force. I can ask you to give me money, but how could I make you? Well, I could, if you are frail, physically force your hand into your pocketbook, or I could put a gun to your head. Any threat to your survival is also a form of force. The threat to survival can be quite subtle. Legal force, for example, results ultimately on physical force. If you ignore the directives of the court, sooner or later a man with handcuffs and a gun will show up at your house. Similarly, economic force rests on the association of money with comfort, security, and survival. Then there is psychological force, a term that is more than mere metaphor. It refers to the leveraging of motivations tied to basic security, in particular the desire to be accepted by the group and by the parent. Our training in the use of psychological force begins in childhood with conditional approval and rejection by the parent, which taps into perhaps the deepest fear of any young mammal: abandonment by the mother. So read that again. I felt I lost my flow. Our training in the use of psychological force begins in childhood with conditional approval and rejection by the parent, which taps into perhaps the deepest fear of any young mammal: abandonment by the mother. A baby mammal left alone for too long will cry piteously for its mother, attracting every predator within earshot, a risk preferable to the certain death of separation from the nursing mother. To engage that mortal fear is tantamount to a gun to the head. Tantamount meaning the same as. Many modern parenting practices leverage that fear. The accusatory, how could you? What's wrong with you? What were you thinking? And perhaps even more pernicious than the manipulative praise that says, I accept you only if you do what I approve of. We learn to strive to be a good boy or a good girl. The word good here meaning that mummy or daddy accepts you. Eventually we internalize the rejection of self-rejection, guilt and shame, and we internalize the conditional acceptance as conditional self-acceptance. To allow oneself that acceptance feels deeply gratifying. To deny it is deeply uncomfortable. That feeling of gratification is core to what we really mean by the word good. It is worth exploring, however. Repeat it to yourself. I am good. Good boy. I am a good person. Some people are bad people, but not me. I am a good person. If you think these words to yourself in earnest, you might find that there is something deeply childish about the gratification that they evoke. Conditional self-approval and self-rejection are powerful mechanisms of self-control. I'm going to read that again. Conditional self-approval and self-rejection are powerful mechanisms of self-control. The application of psychological force upon oneself. We are deeply conditioned to it. It is perhaps the most fundamental of what I will call the habits of separation. So conditioned, we are so vulnerable to any authority figure or government that take over the role of parent, the arbiter of good and bad, the grantor of or withholder of approval. The same conditioning also influences our attempts to change other people in the world. We invoke guilt with slogans like, "Are you part of the problem or part of the solution?" I've used that a few times. We proclaim the complicity of each and every one of us in the imperialistic depredations of Western civilization, the ecocide, culturicide, and genocide. We try to manipulate the vanity of the people whose actions we hope to change. If you do X, you are a good person. We habitually apply force to politicians and corporations as well. It could be the threat of public humiliation or the incentive of public praise and positive image. It could be the threat of a lawsuit or recall campaign. It could be financial threat or incentive. Engage in environmental responsibility practices because it will ultimately enhance your bottom line. I've seen many a company doing that now, using the word green and transparent and conscious and helping the planet or the economy. What worldview, what story are we reinforcing when we use these tactics? It is the worldview in which things happen only through the application of force. These tactics seem to say, I know you. You are a ruthless maximizer of rational self-interest or genetic self-interest. Assuming that, we attempt to leverage that self-interest. We do it to other people and we do it to ourselves. None of this is to say that we should withhold praise and disapproval or strive to free ourselves from being influenced by the opinions of others. As interbeings, the world reflects back to us what we put into the world. There is nothing wrong with celebrating the brave choices that move us or expressing anger or grief over harmful decisions. It is when these are used with manipulative intent that they draw from the worldview of force. The habitual application of various kinds of force draws on deep roots in the scientific paradigm that though obsolete, still generates our view of practicality today. Sorry, let me read that again. In the scientific paradigm that though obsolete, still generates our view of practicality today, nothing in the universe ever changes unless a force is exerted upon it. Power over physical reality then accords to the one who is capable of mustering the force and who has the most complete, accurate information about where to exert that force. It is for this reason that the power-hungry are often obsessed with controlling the flow of information. In a universe lacking intelligence or will of its own, things never just happen. They happen only if something causes them to happen. And cause here means force. From this universe we must take, within it we must control, and onto it we must project our own designs, harnessing more and more force, applying that force with greater and greater precision to become ultimately the Cartesian lords and possessors of nature. So true. I'm going to read that again as well. In a universe lacking intelligence or will of its own, things never just happen. They happen only if something causes them to happen. And cause here means force. From this universe we must take, within it we must control, and onto it we must project our own designs, harnessing more and more force, applying that force with greater and greater precision to become ultimately the Cartesian lords and possessors of nature. Can you see how the word practical smuggles in so much of the mentality underlying the depredations of our civilization? Do you think that operating from within the belief systems of the age of separation, we will create anything but more separation? Do you think that operating from in the belief systems of the age of separation, we will create anything but more separation? So true, just hanging out, regurgitating cycle after cycle after cycle of the same unconscious behaviors. Do you think that operating steady, that was going to be a third time, control breeds its own necessity? So when we treat land with heavy pesticides, the super weeds and super bugs that emerge require new and even stronger doses of pesticides. Sounds a bit like when we do pump our family with antibiotics and antidepressants. We just have to keep them more and more because we become desensitized and numb to them. When someone goes on a diet and attempts to control her urge to eat, at some point the pent-up desire explodes outward as a binge, prompting further attempts to control herself. And when human beings are boxed in, surveilled, scheduled, assigned, classed, and compelled, they rebel in all kinds of ways, sometimes irrational or even violent. We think we need to control these people. As with an addiction, these escalated attempts at control eventually exhaust all available resources, whether personal, social, or planetary. The result is a crisis that the technologies of control can only postpone, but never solve. And each postponement only depletes what resources are still available even further. It is apparent that practical isn't working as well as it used to. Not only because what was once practical is insufficient to our need, but also because it is increasingly impotent in its naive realm. The practical is no longer practical. Like it or not, we are being born into a new world. Maybe the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. This book is a call to surrender control-based thinking, let go, so that we can accomplish things far exceeding the capacity of our force. It is an invitation into a radically different understanding of cause and effect, and therefore a radically different conception of what is practical. Acting accordingly, our choices often seem, to those operating within the old paradigms, to be crazy, naive, impractical, irresponsible. Indeed, they seem that way to that part of ourselves. And I trust that it lives just as much in you, as it does in me. That also inhabits the old story. You might recognize its voice, critical, disparaging, doubting, insinuating. It wants us to stay small, safe, protected in our little bubbles of control. My purpose here is not to urge you to fight that voice or purge it. Simply recognizing for what it is already begins to loosen its power. None of this is to imply that we should never use force or that we should abandon all forms of acculturation that depend on winning acceptance from parents, elders, and the group. These will always be important parts of the human drama. However, our deep ideologies have blinded us to other ways of initiating change. This book will explore the return of force and reason, linear thinking, etc., to its proper domain. There you have it, people. Chapter 6. The next chapter is science. A longer chapter, the next one. The more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. If you don't know Charles Eisenstein and you don't know the book, then maybe explore it, read it here with me. It's just one of many books which are out there in the world today that will change your perspective on reality, just as many other things can do that. It's an exciting time. How not to use force in the same way that we've been using force in a manipulative, you must do this or else. More importantly, how can we shift within ourselves so that our actions just create a different energy, a different resonance, a different way of cause and effect moving. And I'm really personally intrigued, curious, and live each day to see how this continued evolution of new psychology, new philosophy, conscious awareness is unfolding, and how it's rippling and finding its way like water into every nook and cranny, every orifice, every part of the planet. Where are we evolving to? Where did the dinosaurs go? What was the first two humans to be born? Did we just appear? What species are we? What are we capable of beyond the suppressed way that we've been interacting? Is it all just about buying new clothes, watching television, going to the baseball game, and hanging out in societies which predominantly seem like a huge marketing boards, shops everywhere selling us stuff, people standing in these shops looking bored shitless? Excuse my expression. I don't like to swear very often. Is this the world that we are co-creating? Our one shot here on planet Earth? Is this what we're birthing? For me, I'm interested in birthing a way that we communicate in a far more inclusive, powerful, all-encompassing way. How we open ourselves and love and connect and unite and collaborate and express ourselves in ways way beyond what we've been taught, way beyond the idea of one partnership or marriage or just any of society's deep conditioned shackles of invisible prison. So that's why this book is just one of many that expand our awareness. And I'm going to be reading a few more. I'm writing one myself, and I live to just feel the openness and the liberation that's here for everyone right now. Yeah. Thank you for being here. As I always say, I know there's a few of you that are following this and following Simon on the Sofa. I record conversations with people from all walks of life because I feel that through conversation is how we can evolve. It's how I've evolved. It's how we can all evolve. And when people get the opportunity to express themselves and share what's really happening with them, connect to their emotions, connect to their feelings, connect to the interconnectedness of all of life, that's where we fully live. So rock and roll, people. I hope you like the music from wonderful Dara, Stealing My Face, Stealing My Mask. And wherever you are in the world, you are a divine expression of life. Whether you believe it or not, it's just a fact. There are some facts in life. There are some things that we definitely know. Like we're going to leave these bodies, and you are a miracle. That much is certain. Look in the mirror. Look at yourself. You're a miracle.